Good afternoon and welcome, everyone. My name is Joel Aalberts. I'm the Executive Director here at the Lensic Performing Arts Center in Santa Fe. We're so happy you could join us on this Saturday afternoon for a conversation with one of the legends of the dance world, Jock Soto, and just catch up on what's going on in dance and talk about his very unique, distinctive, and wonderful career. Obviously, the theaters around the country, including the Lensic, remain dark as we're finding our way to the other side of the coronavirus epidemic. We're happy to connect with our community, though. This is a community-supported theater. We're a nonprofit. And obviously, we're missing a lot of things when it comes to earned revenue, when it comes to ticket sales and people coming into the space. So more than anything right now, we are supported entirely on the goodness of a community that appreciates the performing arts and is excited to have the arts back in their lives when that time comes. I'll bring this up a couple more times as we're here, but if you have not already supported the arts in your community, supported the arts here at the Lensic in Santa Fe, we would really love that help as we find our way to the other side of this. If you visit lensic.org or you look at some of the information in the YouTube live chat, you'll find some ways that you can help support the Lensic during this time. We're super busy right now, however, when it comes to finding ways that we can engage our patrons. We have several new series that we've started since the virus began, including our Ghost Light sessions, where we welcome local musicians to the Lensic stage to perform songs on a weekly basis that go out on our This Week at the Lensic email. We also are doing the same thing for students in our community. The Lensic has a vibrant arts education program, and it's very important for us that we give students a chance to have a stage while their learning is being done in a distance model and be able to show off their talents and have an opportunity to perform. So those performances are also being aired in the This Week emails as well. As well as that, we have a lot of professional programs and things that are going on. A couple of upcoming performances. The amazing improv comedy duo Brad Sherwood and Colin Mockery will be doing improv comedy on October 10 and 24. And we have a couple of other very exciting programs that we'll be announcing in the next couple of weeks. So do keep your eyes open for that. And we hope we'll have a chance for you to enjoy those shows with us. And the other big thing for us, we're always hopeful. Everyone is hopeful that we're going to get to a point that there's some ground back under our feet and we'll be able to start welcoming our community back into the theater. And in preparation for that, we are doing a lot of work right now to make sure this is a safe place for people to return. We're doing a lot of work with filtration and the cleaning procedures and the rules for safety to bring people back. And we have our fingers crossed that those times will come very soon. So keep your eyes open at lensic.org and look for some more information there. And again, hopefully we will see you back at the Lensic very soon. So I'd love to introduce our special guest for the day. Jock is a good friend of the Lensic. He is a native of New Mexico, born in Gallup, and of a very distinctive background with a Navajo mother and a Puerto Rican father. We'll talk about his formative years a little bit later on and what the course that led him on this path to become one of the most influential ballet dancers of his time. But Jock has been instrumental in shaping the perception of contemporary male American dancer through his legendary work with the celebrated New York City Ballet. Over 100 ballets were choreographed especially for him. His extensive repertoire at the New York City Ballet included featured roles in many works by the legendary George Balanchine. He also inspired the creation of roles in new ballets by such legends as Jerome Robbins, Peter Martins, Lynn Taylor Corbett, Daniel Tanner, and Christopher Wheeldon. We're very excited to have Jock with us. And Jock, welcome to the Lensic, and thank you for joining us this afternoon.
Hello, hi Lensic, one of my favorite theaters ever.
We miss you desperately here. Jock has I learned a lot about Jock. Jock, I learned a lot about you the first day. I'm going to stop talking like about the third person here. The first day we met, you came down to Santa Fe for a performance, a dance performance here at the theater. We grabbed drinks before and then went over to the Georgia O'Keeffe Museum. We were having a pre-performance reception. And the young choreographer, will leave her unnamed at this point because this could get embarrassing, because when you walked up behind her and she didn't know you were there, she turned around and she went as weak-kneed as any human I have ever seen. And I talked to my sister-in-law, who's a retired Martha Graham dancer, and she said, "Oh yes, Jock is a legend among all of these professional dancers. Every time the City Ballet premiered a new season, we went down and we oohed and awed over you." So what does it feel, sir, to be the rock star of the dance world?
Well, I've always wanted to be a rock star first, not a dancer, but I did become a dancer. You know what, I'm 55 years old. I've been all over the world. I've danced everywhere. I've been around. I've danced with many, many ballerinas. You know, for me, when I first joined the New York City Ballet at the age of 16, it was just something that I had passion for ever since I was 5 years old. So
Mm-hmm.
from 16 to 19 years old, that's all I did. I danced in the company every single show, maybe two or three ballets, and then got solos here and there and principal roles here and there. And you know, for me, it wasn't even the making of a rock star. It was just becoming the dancer that I wanted to be because of all the dancers before me, Mikhail Baryshnikov, Peter Martins, Fernanda Bajonas. You know, these are people that I looked up to. So, you know, it for me it was just work, work, work. Later on in life, between 30 and 40, it was a different story.
Yeah, that's when things changed.
That's
So,
when my body changed, when everything changed, when you started seeing the 30-year-old love handles, you know, stuff like that. So, you
yeah.
know, it was a different time for me then, those last 10 years of being a dancer.
Yeah. So I actually want to go back one second here because, first of all, we were expecting that Whalen was going to be with us today, and regrettably, Wendy was not able to join. I hope she'll get a chance to look at the video here at some point, and I do want to express our thanks for her interest in doing this. And sometime, maybe down the road, we can reconnect and have that conversation as well. But the partnership that you had with Wendy is a significant part of your career at the City Ballet. And you two danced together a lot, and it is said that you are one of the best partners um, in the ballet world. And what does that mean for you? What is that mindset when it comes to partnering, and how do you approach that in a way that helps to support the other dancers so well?
Very well put, support. Um, I was always more comfortable behind a ballerina than I was doing a solo. So,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of the partnering for me came naturally. And, you know, having people like Jerome Robbins and Peter Martins and George Balanchine, you know, giving me that sort of like job to do to take care of a ballerina just became more natural to me than doing like being on stage by myself. I got over that, you know, in my 20s, but when early on like I said, 16 to 20, that was my safe place is to be behind a ballerina and just show them off. And then I could just disappear. That's just something that came very natural to me since
Mm-hmm.
early on.
Yeah. So what was part of the development process? I just finished your memoir, which is fabulous. And at the beginning of the book, it talks about the end of your career and that final performance that you did with five very significant dances to do over the course of the evening. And what resonated in reading that was the confidence you had, even at the end of your career, to do whatever was put in front of you. How did you develop that sense of you've always been someone who's very confident, it seems. How did that come out for you as a dancer?
Um, Confidence, I was actually very shy, but very confident without speak. If I wouldn't speak, I wouldn't talk. You know, I was always just not, I would ask my mom questions, you know, stuff
Hmm.
like that. But confidence is something you have to work on. It's something that I had to especially work on because I don't look like a ballet dancer. If you look at me, maybe when I was younger I did, but I felt very insecure about my legs, my body, the shape of everything, and I have a big head, And the thing is that the dancers that I was compared to were sleek and long and had very long legs and long arms, and so I had to come over that. I had to get over that type of thing where I felt bad, and then I all I would do was dance. So I danced. I worked on my dancing, worked on my body, worked on everything. But in between the ages of 15 and 25, you're just naturally skinny. But I wasn't, because I don't have that dancer's body. So I had to work on all of that. So being confident was very hard for me, looking, because dancers, all we do is look at ourselves in the mirror 24 hours a
Mm.
day. So, I mean, I've taught myself now how to look in a mirror and not see myself, but that that just comes with wisdom.
That took some time as well. I do want to say as well, for the audience who is watching on YouTube Live, we've some questions. We're going to talk for a little bit here, but we'd love to hear from you as well. Please use the chat feature on YouTube Live to contribute your own questions for Jock, and we'll get to those as the afternoon wears on here. So we'll look forward to hearing some good questions from home. Um, so talk a little bit about arts education for you. Again, a fascinating story and a wide-eyed. How did ballet come to you? What can you tell a little bit about what that introduction was for you and what piqued your interest so much?
Well, I when I first started dancing was actually side by side with my mother. She taught me the hoop dance that she originally did herself, and she was the first actual woman who did the hoop dance, because it was traditionally just for men. So
Mhm.
I had the rhythm in my body. And so one day I was watching the Ed Sullivan Show. A lot of people will remember that, I hope. Um, and there was Edward Villela dancing, who happened to be a huge New York City Ballet star. But
Mhm.
I didn't know that. But I saw the way that he was dancing on television. And of course, we were watching a black and white, huge television. But what was great was that he was just so powerful, and he looked so manly. He looked like this
Mhm.
gorgeous man. And I was 5. What did I know? But it impressed me so much that I went to ask my mom if I could take that sort of dance. And she said, yes, of course. My mom was always like, yes, 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 my biggest cheerleader. And she got the yellow pages, found the only ballet school in Phoenix, Arizona. And she called, and we went in. I auditioned for the school. It was the Phoenix Ballet School or something. And the director of the school took me right away and gave me a full scholarship, because I was 5 and I was the only
Mhm.
boy that was actually going to be in the school other than girls. So it was an up and up on that part.
Right. She was needing a partner for all those girls as you got older.
Exactly. It was actually
Exactly.
it was actually owned. The school was owned by a couple who were actually who actually danced in New York and then moved to Arizona and opened this school. So
Wow.
small world.
So, and it seems that some of because your progression was enormously fast, that you really, you invested yourself. Did this become kind of an all-consuming thing for you as a child? Was this the thing that you looked forward to the most during your week, was getting in for your practices? What was that relationship like?
Well, the thing is that when you get into a ballet studio, it's like a different world. It's a totally different world. And your ultimate goal as a dancer is to get on the stage.
Mhm.
That's your ultimate goal. So it's all about. I loved the idea of actually performing in front of
Mhm.
people. That's what I wanted to do. And
Mhm.
my advantage getting into New York City Ballet was that I was also very, very quick to learn a step. I could
Mhm.
see a ballet and that was it. I knew the steps right away. And I was
Mm.
very good at that. So I was quick learning in that sense. Not academically, no, but for dance I was. And it was just something I was born to do. So,
Yeah.
I
Yeah. Were you aware that the teachers were, because at 11 was when you started with the School of American Ballet, is that right?
I stayed there for 2 months. I got growing pains, left, came back when I was 13, and was there ever since.
Okay. Wow. So your teachers had some recognition of your talent and tried to create some opportunity for you. Is that,
I guess. I
you
mean,
guess? But yeah, I was just if you were aware of those things.
no,
I
I have to tell you, Joel, I wasn't aware really of any of that.
yeah,
All I did was dance, 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 take class,
yeah,
do all of that. And then all of a sudden I started getting parts. The
right.
second week I got into New York City Ballet, George Balanchine threw me into a role because two of his soloists were injured. So I was
Mm.
16 and there I was. He threw me out there. I learned it, I did it, and that was the beginning of, starting to get better parts and better parts.
Yeah. Yeah, and again a remarkably quick advance. But the 14 was when you arrived on your own in New York, right?
13, 13.
13.
It's pretty crazy because I lived with five other boys in an apartment above. Well, first of all, it was Edward Villela's building.
Okay.
That circle met the circle, and then
Mm-hmm.
five of us lived on the top floor, and we walked 3 blocks to the school, every day. That was our life,
Right.
just doing that and living together, staying up all night, talking, laughing, and then dancing all day. That was my life.
Yeah. That's a remarkable opportunity for a young person. How did that affect the relationship with your family at that time?
Well, my parents stayed for a year, and my dad hated New York City, and my mother wasn't fond of it either. And they left me there because it was my choice to stay, because that's
Hmm.
what I wanted to do. And they bought an RV and drove all across the country. So I didn't see them for several years until I got in the company.
Wow, that's good. And what is that connection with your native roots meant to you, in the creation of your art and sort of the progression of your life as well?
You know, Joel, I didn't think about any of that really until after I retired and when I was
Mm.
writing my book. When I did the documentary and was writing my book, the last years of my career in New York City, that's when I came back to my mom's culture, my father's culture, and all that stuff. And that's when my mother and I got a lot closer.
Mhm.
We were always very close, but she would explain to me all the rituals and all the stuff that I have to remember, and she would send me little trinkets and little pieces of turquoise and all that stuff just to remind me that I do have a culture that is very important to me and was actually to my career.
Mhm. Yeah. Um, so tell a little bit more about some of the signature experiences that you remember with the City Ballet. Some of the choreographers who you most enjoyed working with, and were there favorite roles
Were
you've
were
had over that time?
favorites, favorite people to work with? You have to understand that every choreographer, director, producer, anybody in those positions, there's always really hard, difficult moments, but there's also
Hmm.
really satisfying moments. So, I mean,
Hmm.
I have stories that you probably don't want to hear, but like for instance, Jerome Robbins was very difficult. to everybody, not just to me or to anybody else. And then when I became a principal dancer at the age of 20, he turned into the nicest man on earth. And but then I would still see how he treated, the lesser dancers and stuff like that. And that made me so frustrated. But then out of all of that, as I got older, he brought West Side Story to New York City Ballet, which everybody thought was going to be a joke because dancers can't sing, dancers
Hmm.
can't do Broadway, ballet dancers. But he proved everybody wrong. And so we did West Side Story, and I was Bernardo, and I was so thrilled. But it was tough. It's tough to work with a choreographer when they get angry. But when they're nice and happy, it's like anything else. It's like having a nice lunch with somebody who you like versus somebody you don't like that you have to have lunch with.
Hmm.
I know not a good dance analogy, but it's life. That's just life.
Yeah. It sounds like it seems that there's some remarkable people, uh, other dancers. I mean, it seems like it was a very kind of seminal time in the life of the City Ballet. The people who you worked with then, what were some of the good relationships that you had and the things that you learned from the other dancers who were around you?
Well, my first partnership in the company was with Heather Watts,
Hmm.
and Peter Martins put us together, me and Heather together, in many many ballets that he choreographed for us. And I remember when Balanchine was sick. When Mr. B was sick, Peter went to Mr. B and he said, I'm working with Heather and Jock, and maybe I should mix it up and maybe not work with them so much. And Mr. B said to him, he said, no, 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 you stick with what you know, work with them, choreograph on them as much as possible. And
Hmm.
so I had a long career with Heather and with Darcy
Hmm.
Kistler, and then
Hmm.
with Wendy Whalen. So you just shift. You have to dance with a lot of different ballerinas in the company,
Hmm.
but there's certain people that you get just a little closer to, and you get a connection on stage and off where it clicks and it works. So that sort of thing, as you know, being a director, if you find that, stick with it. And that's what
Right.
Mr. B was doing, and what he was saying to Peter. Stick with it, work with them, see what else you can do. And
Mhm.
that was the beginning of something special for me, because then we developed a great relationship. And then with Wendy Whalen, also, when I turned 30 to 40, we had our career together. So it was what
Mhm.
clicked and what worked, and how you could work together to make something just slightly little a huge, huge, beautiful moment.
Hmm. Did you find that there were different, I mean, I would imagine that there are different skills and talents and things that each of these partners are bringing that you latch on to and you really appreciate sort of being in that moment with them because it works so easily, maybe at first, or it's something that you can develop. What kind of things made all of these partners so different for you?
It's so funny you said at first, because at first you don't know if it's going to work at
Right.
all. You can get in a room and you could just not, she could not maybe do something as well as the other could, or whatever. But you had to remember each time you danced with a different partner how they did it last time. Or if you
Hmm.
had a younger, so I was the younger dancer at the time working with these older ballerinas. But then when it reversed on me and I had to reteach a younger ballerina what I
Hmm.
needed because I didn't want to get hurt,
Hmm.
it became frustrating. But then when you work it out and you tell them how to do it specifically, then it's great. You can do anything. She could be all the way
Yeah.
across the stage taking off for a turn, and you had to be there in 2 seconds to catch her.
Uh-huh.
But that's what was exciting about that type of partnership.
Right. Right. You start figuring out you can anticipate what the partner's needs are at that time.
Yes, and you can also dare them.
And dare them? What what does that mean? What kind of dares?
Wendy was all the way in the corner over there. I'd say, take off now, and I'll be there by your second turn. That's what makes it exciting for an audience. That sort of thing.
Right. That's really fun, and I'm sure that that creates some interesting friendships and other moments that come from that too.
Yes, it does.
That's very good. So as you stayed with the, I'm remembering. So we have a side thing with Robert Mirabal,
You introduced me to him.
who fabulous native flute musician. What's that?
You introduced me to him.
Yeah, and he's a fabulous guy. And it was at a lunch that I had with you and Robert. And Robert said the most wonderful thing to me, where he felt that he started talking to about himself as an elder. He said, "I'm an elder now." And so as you stayed with the company and you became the elder and have this, parcel of kids who are 16 and older underneath you, what kind of role did you play with them? Did you uh, how did you approach being the elder statesman of the ballet?
I started teaching when I was still dancing, and I taught at the school for 20 years.
Hmm.
But I started teaching in 1996, and I didn't have that sort of. I got more frustrated teaching than I actually was teaching because I didn't understand why dancers weren't getting what I was telling them. I mean, this is so
Hmm.
many years ago. Now it's a different story. Now they'll get in touch with me. They'll say, especially through Zoom now, they're all like, do you have any time to teach me for an hour here, there, whatever? And I have to, they ask me, so I'm like, of course, yes, of course, I will. My, I'll tell you a funny story. As being an elder, um, I was dancing a ballet called Symphony in Three Movements, which is my husband's favorite ballet of all time. And I was with Wendy. We were in front. We were dancing. We were dancing. We stopped because the orchestra, something happened with the rehearsal. And I looked back at everybody on stage. Everybody on that stage I had taught. They were my students, the whole cast. And
Wow.
I turned forward and I just looked, I thought about it and I went, I have to retire. This is it. I can't. I went up to Peter and I said, Peter, let them do it. I don't want to do this anymore. Let them do it. And I said, those are all my students. And, as it's just that, being older, growing up in that situation, because dancers' careers don't last forever, like an Olympian, those don't last either. But I just thought, let's just pass this on, pass what I have learned for so many years, give it
Hmm.
to them, show them how I learned it, pass it on. And for that, I'm glad to be an elder.
Yeah. That's wonderful. Well, you actually just brought up a couple things there that we talked about before, and um, you are still teaching a lot. Can you tell a little bit about what's going on in your teaching life at this point?
Well, when March exploded for everybody, I got a call from a dancer who was my student. He's in American Ballet Theater now, and he said, "Are you teaching at all?" And I said, "Actually, no, I don't. I have no idea how to teach from my living room,
Hmm.
And I started giving him, private classes, and he started to do my combinations and everything. He started looking better because everybody was just, you're just done. It was done. Dance
Right.
world
Yeah.
over,
Yeah.
as it is now, because how can you get on stage with, 60 other dancers? It's just insane. So I started slow like that. The word got out, then other dancers started messaging me on Facebook
Hmm.
or Instagram, and they kept on saying, "Well, can I join your class?" And
Hmm.
so I keep them very small, but now I do everything from Zoom. So this monitor here, that's where I teach from, and I get each dancer on here watching me,
Hmm.
and I teach from my living room, and that's how everybody's teaching now. Some students now are back in studios or in theaters, but I don't, me personally, I don't want to leave my house unless I know this is going to get a vaccine at some point. I just can't. I can't risk it, and I wouldn't
Yeah,
risk it for other dancers either.
totally understand. How does what are you seeing differently? I mean, teaching on Zoom has to be different. You've taught face to face for a long time. How does reviewing someone's dance performance seem different to you from afar than it does when you're in the same room?
Well, you see, most of these dancers are dancing in their kitchens, living rooms, bedrooms, and they with no mirror. Like I said
Mhm.
before, we grew up with mirrors in front of us all the
Mhm.
time, so we could actually look at what we look like. They're not having that now, but
Mhm.
they are going back in studios and they're looking at themselves in the studio because the art of ballet is all about the line and how you look, the feet, the position, your body, and everything. So when I first started in March and April, I was like, oh my God, what are you doing? Why are you doing that? And they're usually all my friends that I know from growing up, and
Right.
like the shape of their leg or something, and they wouldn't even know they were doing it like that. And so I was their mirror. So I'm still
Mhm.
their mirror right now, and that's all we can do right now. I know that they're eager to get into a studio and perform on stage and all that stuff, but we can't do that right now.
Right. Right. Um, the other thing that we talked about, and going back to a couple of comments ago, was the athleticism of it, where you were saying it's like being an Olympic athlete. And that's always the way that I've viewed dance, is that these are elite athletes who are doing this very artistic thing. What are you talked about being in the kitchen and using your island as your dance bar and all of these other creative ways that people are dealing with this. What are some of the other things that you've seen dancers doing? How else are they finding ways to express creativity at this time too?
Well, when you reach a certain age as a dancer, you have to actually involve all the other stuff that gets you on the stage. And
Mhm.
for instance, like I said, at 30 years old, I got a really serious injury. And that's when I had to think, am I going to retire at 30 or do I have to continue with what I need to do? And what I
Mhm.
did was I hired a trainer, I had a chiropractor, I had a massage person, I went to the gym. It was just literally from 10 in the morning until 9 at night, I was working nonstop. I went from all of my rehearsals to my trainer to work for 2 hours, just because that's what you need to get on the stage because you're not performing every night. So a
Right.
lot of these dancers are doing that same thing to this day. I know a very good friend of mine who I'm training, who I'm teaching. She she works all day because she's a major ballerina and she's in her mid 30s. So,
Mhm.
you have to retain that sort of commitment beyond belief even now,
Mhm.
you get your ballet shoes off, you get your point shoes off, you put your sneakers on, and you do something else to continue your day. So that's very important for dancers to do now, especially now because there's no foreseeable future of when you're going to get on stage again.
Yeah. So a question from the internet is, are you still performing right now? Or
Um,
up until the things went crazy in March, are you still performing? And do you have plans for when life gets back to normal?
Good answer.
Pardon me, I need to do this. In normal. Okay. Thank you.
Well, yes, I am. I did two shows 2 years in a row in Albuquerque, and we're planning on doing a virtual show of that soon. And I'm supposed to be performing at the Lensic next year, Joel. So
Mhm. That's what
hopefully,
I've heard.
yes. So I hope that that still happens. At the age of
I hope
56,
so too.
drag my butt out there and do something.
Well, we would love to have you at the on the Lensic stage again. That would be amazing. Um, so you are. We'll still wait for a few more questions, but I had a question. That born in New Mexico, back to New Mexico. And I know that, there were a lot of reasons that this place called you back, or that you felt like you were home here. What does New Mexico mean to you, from your uh, all of your life experiences?
Um, you know what? I love New Mexico so much. I really do. It's so beautiful, and especially where we live, in the mountains here. It's just gorgeous. I was born in Gallup, like you said. Uh, it didn't return there for many, many, many years.
Hmm.
But my mom and dad found this little lake here, well, little, big lake here, when they drove from Cimarron, and they fell in love with this area. And when I first saw it, I was like, it's just paradise. And I love the seasons here, and I love that it's always cool up here in the mountains.
Hmm.
Coming from New York City, where it's humid and 110 degrees some days, and you're just like sweat, that sort of, and all the people. 5 years ago, I just had to. I made my mind up, and I said, I need to live somewhere beautiful and not just be constantly bombarded by millions of people in New York. And my anxiety got to me, and I had high blood pressure. So what a better place to move to than here in New Mexico?
Yeah, yeah. I hear there was something about never wanting to ride a subway again too.
That is true.
I
Or
think
it's,
that hits every, I think that hits every New Yorker at some point. That's like, that's the last one. I'm done.
yeah, I would get off after the first stop. My last 2 years there, I'd get off after getting out of Brooklyn. The first stop, I'd have to get out of the car because it was just too claustrophobic, and it
Yeah.
never affected me before, ever. Because I was young and I could do it. I could race around, I could dance all day, and I could do all that stuff. But as you get older, you want more tranquility.
Exactly. Exactly. So a little bit more of your time here, but another thing that I know is a creative passion for you as well as cooking now. That's a you married a terrific chef and wine expert, and that you two have dove into the culinary world. What does that mean for what is the relationship with food, and how do you see that as a part of where your life is right now?
Well, I've always said this actually, and I said it in I did it when I did a cookbook years ago. I always said that cooking for me is like a performance. There's a beginning, there's a middle, and there's an end. And
Mm-hmm.
I taught myself how to cook growing up, because we lived in L-shaped studios in New York City that you spent thousands of dollars on. And the last apartment that we lived in Brooklyn, I loved so much, but the kitchen was a disaster. I
Mm-hmm.
used to call our stove the Easy Bake Oven, and a lot of people might remember that. But the Easy Bake Oven was worked by a light, yeah.
The little
So
light bulb.
yeah, but we would have 22 people for dinner in our apartment, and we cook on that little stove. But it's just something that I've always had a passion for is cooking.
Mhm.
And when I met my husband, he didn't tell me at first that he was a chef. So my first meal that I made for him was a roast chicken, and it turned out to be this soggy, soupy chicken. And he ate it. He was so happy about it. But then the next time he made me dinner, he made his chicken, and his chicken came out of the oven like glowing, like it had stars, things coming out of it. And I was like, what are you not telling me? So yeah, no, I love to cook, and you know what? We have a beautiful kitchen here, and we're spoiled with everything that we have. So it's
Yeah,
something I love.
that's wonderful. I like it that Louise kept that big secret from you.
Yeah, not for long.
Not for long. Not for long. So give a little bit more opportunity for people to contribute questions from home. But one kind of final question for me is, obviously this is a strange time, and dance is one of those things that for young people, as you experienced, is a real passion and is um, very difficult to do right now. What is some advice that you would give to a blossoming dancer who's wanting to continue to learn and progress when it's not so easy to do so? Is there any advice that you could give at this point?
Yes, of course. I would say don't give up. Don't give up because what I tell some of my students now, I say you're going to get there. We're all going to get through this. You will be able to perform again one day. You'll be out on stage, and some places are doing it now, and a lot of dancers that I know are doing it outdoors. So if you can
Hmm.
perform outdoors, that's great. Even if you have to wear a mask or not, of course people want to see your face, but the safest thing to do is to wear a mask and perform. If you want to dance outside, dance outside.
Hmm.
We just recently did a video with two dancers from Albuquerque that turned out wonderful. And we were all distanced and everything. And I'll tell you one thing that was very hard for me. Choreographing on Zoom is the hardest thing I've ever done.
Hmm. Why
because
is that?
because you have to physically be with the dancer and show them what to do. And it was just very hard, very difficult, but I did it. So this could be a new beginning of something new.
Hmm. Is it is there like mirroring issues for you too, that you're thinking of the dance moving in one direction, but when you're teaching it, it
Um,
uh,
what was hard was I would look at them and I'd say, no, can you put your arm there? Can you put your foot there? Can you put that there? And then lift them. That
right,
that's if you can't show it in person, then how do you do it? So you have to be ultra extra creative to work.
right,
Sitting here is easy, but movement is a different thing.
right. You have to be so intentional in your word choice and everything, I'm sure.
And politically correct.
And well, I don't really.
Well, not with dancers. We all cuss all the
I,
time.
I was gonna say that didn't ring with a lot of truth in it, Jock. I'm gonna be honest with you.
Yeah, the F bomb does work very well these days.
I'm sure that it does. I'm sure that it does. Well, I again want to thank you very much for your time. Let me just check one more thing here because I do have here just one second. I do have one more question coming in here. It looks like. Um, well, maybe not. I've seen you for years. Oh, I've okay. Here it is. Here it is. I've seen you for years at SPAC. Did you enjoy the company being up there and being up there in the summer?
I'm sorry. Oh,
Being at
Saratoga.
SPAC,
Oh, Saratoga Springs.
Saratoga Springs. Yes,
You know what? It was great because I don't know if you know this theater at all, but it's an outdoor theater.
outdoor theater there. I've never seen it, but I've heard about it.
It is wonderful, and the audiences were always so wonderful, and they would all come backstage and wait for us to all exit and all that. So it was really wonderful because the dancers we would all get together and pick who wanted to live together for 3 weeks in
Hmm.
Saratoga, and it was just so beautiful up there. So we could all cook together and we could go to the theater together, and it was great. It was really fun. It
Sounds like summer camp.
talk about being a rock star. The galas that they had for New York City Ballet there was like rock star people. It was just crazy, but it was really super fun. Really super fun.
Fantastic. Wonderful. Well, Jock, I want to thank you again for your time today and for joining us and for giving us some glimpse into the dance world these days. And we're really hopeful that we'll be able to start seeing some dance live and in person again very soon. This is a very special thing about what we love to do here at the Lensic. We, of course, miss our friends with the Aspen Santa Fe Ballet and all of the touring companies that come through Santa Fe and the amazing dance audiences we have here. And I'm going to be honest with you, the Marley is rolled out right now. So you're welcome to come down. You can do some classes down here if you want to. Bring your big TV
Okay.
and we'll take good care of you. But um, Thank you so much for your time, and again for the audience who's with us today. We do miss you. Obviously the virtual connection is very nice right now. It's nice to have times where we talk about ideas and share programs and share experiences with each other, but there's still nothing better than being at the theater with other people. And we're going to keep our fingers crossed that we're going to get that way. So until then, the best thing you can do, a couple things. First of all, you put that mask on your face, you take care of your body, and you treat yourself as best as you can, because that's the fastest thing that we can do to help get life back to normal. So do take care. And secondly, the performing arts does need you right now. And this is theaters like the Lensic, it's artists out in the world who are missing the work that they do, the people who are working on the gig economy and doing all sorts of things. Support the arts in your community so that we'll have the ability and the all of the creativity and content that we're going to need to get everything back together. The arts was incredibly generous when we all shut down back in March, providing lots of support for people. And it's going to be equally as important when we come back online, whenever that day comes. This is the thing that's going to bring people back out of their homes. It's going to make them feel like they're back a part of their community. And we're ready to see you back here at the Lensic as well. I hope that time comes very soon. Jock, thank you again for your time. And everyone else, take care, and we'll look forward to seeing you again soon.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you.
Thank you. Hip hip. Well, the time always goes super fast.